left off and we were multiplying a binomial, which is 2 terms, times a trinomial, 3 terms. We were using above arrows and below arrows, right? So we could keep track. And then we lined up what we had so that we could organize it where the like terms would be next to each other. So we kind of had to stagger where we put each multiplication, and then we made sure these lined up because they have the same variable and degree. And then down here we did the same thing, and we only had one pair that lined up, so we ended up with this very long answer for a polynomial, and that's fine, we survived, right? So now we're going to do an example here, number 7. We're going to have x plus 4 times 2x minus 5 times negative 4x minus 2. Okay, so we have 3 quantities this time. So what do we do when we end up with 3 quantities? What could be a strategy?
You first for the first 2, and you first for the second 2, and first for the first and the third.
That's there is something we can do a little less complicated than that. So what I would do is I would FOIL the first 2, right? Because this is 2 times 2. And then I would use the above and below because I'm going to end up with a trinomial and another binomial, right? So I'm going to go ahead and FOIL these, right? So I'm going to get 2x squared, and then I'm going to get negative 5x, and then I'm going to get 8x, and I'm going to get negative 20, right? So hopefully at this point you can just like in your head be like first, outer, inner, last, and you don't have to write out what you're multiplying, you can just think about it in your head, right? So the x times the 2x, that's where I get the 2x squared. So this ends up, because I can combine these terms, I end up with leftover, I have negative 4x minus 2 times 2x squared plus 3x minus 20, right? So, I'm sorry? Yeah, so this is the quantity I didn't use yet, right? So I FOILed these, and then I brought this down and I took my answer over here. So now I can do the above and below, right? So I'm combining the 2 processes, right? I can FOIL the 2 times 2, the binomial times the binomial, and then I take the binomial I still had left and I'm going to multiply this, the above and below. And then I'll get my final answer. Okay, do you guys want a chance to do this one by yourself? Yes, sir.
Wait, I'm confused with the thing on the first thing you did.
I just FOILed. So first gave me this, outer gave me that, inner, and last. So I just didn't write out the x times 2x and the x times negative 5 and the 4 times 2x. I just didn't write those out. I just, in my head, I was like, I'm going to multiply the first, and I got this.
So you multiplied that by...
So I ignored this third quantity, and I FOILed these 2, right? First, outer, inner, last.
Oh, okay.
And then I brought this third quantity down, and then I combined these where I needed to, and I created this trinomial.
Oh, all right.
Yep. And so now I'm going to use the arrows, and I'm going to multiply and get my answers, right? So I'm going to get negative 8x to the third, negative 12x, and positive negative 12x squared, and positive 80x. Then I'll have negative 4x squared, negative 6x, and positive 40. So these can be combined, right? Because they have the same variable and they have the same degree. the negative 44 times the negative 20. Yeah. Oops. And then when I combine all of them, I get that very long 4-term polynomial. Okay. Okay, let's go on to that next page I had you guys grab. Oh, if you're still working on this, that's fine. But let's get that third blank page out. We just have a couple more things that I need you to be aware of that can happen with polynomials.
How do we apply this to real life?
Which page?
Most stuff you learn never applies to real life.
I have a question for you. What do you expect me to say when you ask that question? Like, what's your desired response?
I don't know an example of how this applies to real life.
Okay, but we've talked about why we do this. Do you remember that answer? I've already been very clear that you probably won't use this. You won't. But right now you're learning to learn. So by learning this, you're teaching yourself how to learn. You are learning to learn.
Okay.
That's what you're doing. So are you ever going to ask the teacher that again?
No.
Probably not. Right?
What do you have?
When are we ever going to use this? It's like a teacher's favorite question, especially a math teacher. We love it. We live for it. We're like, I hope a kid asks me today when they're ever going to use this. I wake up every morning. I hope somebody asks me that really, really clever question of when are we ever going to use this. I don't want to hear that question. Okay, let's move on. Example number 8. So we're still on the same, we're not putting a new date, we're not putting a new heading, we're just continuing where we left off, just like we did on the previous page. You might see something like this, a quantity squared. X minus 5 squared. What is that really telling us to do?
Square the
numbers inside.
It's telling us to multiply that quantity times itself, right? So if it says x minus 5 squared, we're going to rewrite that as x minus 5 times x minus 5. Okay, because you are going to get something different than x squared plus 25. That's not how it works, right? So you have to rewrite it as the quantity times itself. So then when I multiply, I'm going to get x squared, I'm going to get negative 5x, and plus 25. These can be combined. So what will my final polynomial answer be?
X to the power of 2 minus 5x to the power of 2 plus 25.
So we are combining these. We're not multiplying them. So how many negative x's do I have? I have negative 10. So my answer would be x squared minus 10x plus 25.
Did you write it the other way around? We have to order it.
Remember, we have to do the ordering. The rule of ordering is by degree, right?
No, but like the 25 and the negative 10.
Nope, it has to be like this. Because this has a single degree and this doesn't have any variables, so it needs to go in this order. Okay? The reason I'm being really picky about that, Christian, is because, like I said on Friday, eventually you'll be given this and you'll be asked to create the two quantities it came from. So you have to have them in a specific order so that you can work backwards. Yep. Okay. Let's look at another problem. You're going to have to draw a picture here.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Oh, 3D square.
Yep.
Why is mine? Wait, why is your cube like that? My cube looks like this. Why is yours? My handwriting's not as hard. No,
It's
how do
okay.
I do that?
It's just, you don't have to, we're going to put dimensions on there, so just make sure that your dimensions are in the right location.
But yours.
Do you want me to draw it for you? Okay, so we have a cube here, or at least a prism, right? Maybe not a perfect cube. And at one point on your assessment, which is next week, you have to determine the volume of said object, right? So finding the volume of this object will be very similar to example 7, where you have 3 quantities that you're multiplying, okay? So if you remember, volume equals area of base times height, right? And to find the area of the base, we do length times width times height. Little geometry lesson here for you. That capital B stands for the length times the width, right? So if we have our length, our width, and our height, we can find the volume, right? We just have to multiply those 3 terms together. So I would have 3x times x plus 2 times x minus 5. This one's a little bit easier because we can just distribute that 3x to the first quantity, and then when we get that binomial, we can FOIL with the third quantity. Okay, so when I distribute this 3x, I'm going to get 3x squared plus 6x, and then I just bring down the x minus 5. Bless you. And now I can FOIL this, right? So my first terms will give me 3x to the third. My outer terms will give me negative 15x squared. My inner terms will give me 6x squared. And the last ones will give me negative 30x. So what would the volume equal of this prism? What will it equal? Judah?
3x to the third, sorry, 3x cubed minus 9x squared. No, I haven't done the math of it.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, minus 9x squared minus 30x.
Perfect. This would be our volume. Okay. So just another way to apply the concept of multiplying quantities Okay, we have one more example, and then I'm going to talk to you guys about what the expectations are for the rest of class today and for your e-learning for tomorrow. Okay, did you guys remember that tomorrow's e-learning? I'll be here too. Oh, yes, I mean, edge of your seat excitement. Edge of your seat. Okay, leave a little space here between the number 10 and this first quantity. Leave a little space there. I'm sorry? Well, so here's the thing. In this example, we have a negative out in front.
So we'll
Right.
just distribute the negative.
So you have to distribute the -1 to the first quantity. So really I'm going to have -3x minus 5 times the 2x minus 1. And now you can FOIL. So if you have a negative out in front, you have to remember there's that -1 there, just like when we were adding and subtracting. Right? We distribute that -1, and then we can move on with our lives. And then in your head, you'll be thinking first, outer, inner, last. Okay, so what we didn't get to yesterday because we got a little distracted with some shenanigans in the hallway. They really should try out for track.